Hello, and welcome to a special episode of Warhammer 40k's Grim History from the Beyond. I'm Zeckthar, and today I will be going over the tale of how Leman Russ acquired his spear. The spear was forged by the Emperor himself during the Age of Strife inside his very first subterranean fortress and contained a portion of his own power. The sister of the Apollonian spear, the Dionysian spear, as it was originally known, has the ability to illuminate those it pierces, revealing to them some aspect of truth. The weapon was later given to Russ in the aftermath of the Wheel of Fire campaign as a reward, but the weapon made him feel uneasy, and he never took it with him into battle. He would often lose it on the battlefield, or forget it in a conference chamber as he carried it only to please the Emperor. Despite his attempts to part with the weapon, it always ultimately returned to his side. Because of this, the spear is hardly mentioned until the Horus Heresy. After the burning of Prospero, Leman felt regret for being manipulated by the War Master Horus. To retain his honor, Russ determined to deal with the traitor personally. Thinking that it was his destiny, Russ eventually led the wolves out from Terra to try and engage the War Master despite the objection from Rogel Dorn and Sanguinius, who wished him to remain for the coming siege, thanks to the efforts of the Knights Errant during the Battle of Molech. Russ was able to track the location of the Vengeful Spirit, Horus's ship, in order to confront Horus directly. Before moving on Horus, however, he returned to Fenris to conduct a ritual with his rune priests to try to ascertain a weakness in the War Master. The ritual, overseen by Kava, Bjorn, and 7 other rune priests, saw Russ enter the Underverse through the volcanic cavern known as Siertes Door. Within the Underverse, Russ entered the Hall of Erkling, a warp entity that collects the Fenrisian souls which die outside of battle. Russ was about to be consumed by Erkling's hordes of Wolfen when he offered to complete 4 challenges to exchange for his soul. The Erkling accepted and challenged him to first drink the damned souls of Amaroks bowl dry, next to wrestle an old crone, and finally move the Erkling's great sleeping wolf. Leman drank deeply of the bowl, but the taste was foul, and the bowl never seemed to empty. After one final gulp, the Primarch lowered the bowl from his lips. Looking down into the bowl, he realized his failure. The bowl was still full. Angered by his failure, Leman took his anger out on the old hag. To his surprise, her strength was mightier than his, and she had the speed of a large cat. It wasn't long before the old one pinned him to the ground, cackling evilly as she did. Leman Russ had failed his second test. Determined to win at least one of these challenges, the Wolf King stormed towards Erkling's sleeping wolf. Leman Russ, who was known to have the strength to rip trees from the ground and snap them across his back. Leman Russ, who could wrestle the mighty Fenrisian mammoth to the ground with his bare hands, could not move the sleeping wolf. Russ had failed the first 3, and his soul depended on completing the 4th, which was to answer the Erkling's riddle of what the first 3 challenges were. After some thought, Russ revealed the first challenge symbolized the changing of the seasons of Fenris. The old one represented the inevitability of age. The unmoving wolf was the inescapable death. The halls crumbled, replaced by a finely dressed, civilized version of Russ that was revealed to be his fate had he never landed upon Fenris. This Russ revealed the nature of the spear, that it held a portion of the Emperor's power and could illuminate the truth to those it pierced. With that, the false Russ impaled the Wolf King, revealing to him the truth regarding the nature of the Primarchs. Russ despaired, and the false Russ revealed that this knowledge would one day see him leave Fenris. Nonetheless, Russ had gotten what he was looking for, as he understood that the Spear of Russ could not only wound Horus, but change the course of the war. Russ emerged from the Seer's door, with Bjorn as the only surviving member of his retinue. He announced his intentions to confront Horus despite it being suicidal. He allowed his wolf lords to decide if they would follow him or not, but none refused. Using the runes placed aboard the vessel by the knights errant at Moloch, the Space Wolves' fleet ambushed the vengeful spirit as it was docked on Treslin A4. A vicious battle erupted between the two armadas, and Russ boarded the vengeful spirit and confronted Horus himself. Russ was disgusted with what had become of his brother, and unsurprisingly rejected his offer to join him to overthrow the Emperor. The two engaged in a titanic duel, with Russ deliberately allowing himself to be wounded by Horus's lightning claw to create an opening to impale the treacherous War Master with the Spear of Russ. However, Russ hesitated to strike down his brother for a second, allowing Horus to deflect some of the blow and turn a fatal strike into a wounding. Nevertheless, Horus was grievously injured, and more importantly, the power of the spear cleared him of the corruption that he had suffered since Moloch. Russ hesitated to deliver the killing blow. No longer was Horus a vile monster of chaos, but the vision of his brother and friend, Horus Lupercal. In a hopeful moment that proved foolish, Russ offered peace to the War Master and pleaded with him to come and be healed by the Emperor. Even though the chaotic corruption was gone from Horus, his bitterness against the Emperor remained in full, and he refused. Goading his younger brother back into combat, Horus chuckled, saying, "So you were good enough. After all, brother, you could have killed me. You should have not hesitated. This weakness is what will cost our father victory. You so nearly won." Again, the two brothers engaged in battle, and this time Leman Russ was badly injured. But before Horus could land the final blow, hundreds of Space Wolves desperately swarmed the War Master, giving Bjorn and Grimnir Blackblood time to drag the barely conscious Primarch back to his ship and flee. After the fight against Horus, the badly wounded Russ fell into a comatose state. Abaddon pursued the depleted Space Wolves to Yarant, where he besieged them. Russ woke only when Korax arrived with the Raven Guard, awake long enough to greet the Raven Lord and give Bjorn the Spear of Russ. In the end, the Space Wolves were able to evacuate Yarnt with Korax's aid, but Russ remained unconscious. Korax brought Russ and the wolves to Deliverance, where the Wolf King was able to eventually heal from his injuries. The spear was then placed in the Shrine of Russ on the planet of Garm after his disappearance, where it remained for a millennia. And so it remains to this day. Yet it was stolen at one point by the Thousand Sons. Yet that is a story for next Tuesday, when I discuss notable characters of the Space Wolves with my brother Yuksen. To tell you that story in full is to tell of the story of the hero Ragnar Blackmane. So stay tuned for next Tuesday, and I hope you enjoyed this strange weapons history. This is Zeckthar, signing off.